How's it going, gamers? Chongo here, and today I've got a gameplay commentary for you guys. The gameplay is of Black Ops 2 on the PC, and today's commentary topic is going to be about Obama and basically asking Congress to put some money forward to investigate the link between violence and violent video games. So anyway, let's get into it. At first I thought this would be a kind of a silly idea, but now I'm actually kind of for it, even though it does cost a little bit of money. I've seen some reports out there saying it costs $500 million, but it actually doesn't. I think he said for Congress to put forward $10 million for the video game research, and $500 million was for everything of his plan to pretty much try and stop this gun violence, which I think it's a good idea that he's actually doing things, because it's taken a while. I mean, in Australia, as soon as we had a massacre, we basically locked down and did something, and yeah, basically that stopped us having as many shootings as we did at the time. But it seems like America has always just, put it off, and now they're actually doing something, and he's sort of like approaching with a shrapnel kind of approach. So instead of just, sticking with, video games did it or guns did it, he's kind of looking at all these different things that could be possible, which I think is a good idea, because basically if anything comes back is obviously helping or making massacres become easier, then he can obviously look into doing something with that and making it harder for things like this to occur. So now back into obviously the video game side of things. So it's 10 million of the 500 million, so that's for everything. So 10 million is going to the video game research, and I think this is good because people keep saying these things that are quite ridiculous, that basically it's all the games we play, it's movies we see. But if they do this and it comes back with nothing, we have a really new report that pretty much says that it doesn't do anything. And another thing to look into it is, it's not saying whether playing violent video games or video games in general make you want to kill people, it's to say there's a link between violence. So even if this report comes back and does say playing video games makes you a violent person, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to pick up a gun and go and shoot people. Now, the reason I think they're trying to blame video games is, for the most part, when this massacre occurs, or past massacres have occurred, it's usually a young male that has done it, and obviously young males are one of the key demographics for video games. However, I think this is kind of odd, because in Australia we play pretty much the same amount of video games as anyone in America, and yet when a shooting happens in Australia currently, it's usually something to do with bikers, or it's usually someone a little older. It's not usually a young adult or a teenager. So I'm actually kind of eager to see what this research will show, whether it shows what we all already sort of believe, that it doesn't really make people violent or anything like that, or if it does, like what are basically all the other effects, and if they're actually going to do anything about it, or if it's just something to show the government that basically violent video games aren't what is causing all these problems, or video games in general aren't doing anything. So if this report does come out and basically says that violent video games or video games do not cause violence, then this is going to be a pretty big blow to anyone who constantly keeps blaming video games for this kind of thing. I still think you may see some people who are, pro-gun trying to blame video games, but I don't think you'll see it as much, because when you're trying to blatantly say something and there's evidence right there that pretty much shuts you down, it's kind of hard to push forward that point. So even though some people may continue to say, oh, it's all these video games, blah, 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 anything like that, no one's really going to listen to them, because if they've got research to the contrary, it kind of, just shuts it down. So although there is better uses this money could be going towards, I'm kind of happy that this is happening, because then it would be better than if another massacre occurs in America and people just keep blaming video games, and it gets to the point where no research is done, but someone just wants to make a swift action and they get to like banning video games, and it just go too far. So I think it's pretty good that we're doing this, because if this is done, then pretty much everywhere in the world can refer to this study, even though obviously countries aren't the same. It's just going to be good to have a document or research that pretty much will show that there is no link between violence and video games. Also, I did a video on this kind of topic in the past. I should have a link in the description to that, as well as maybe put it at the end of the video, so you guys can go and check my opinions on that. That was actually made after the Aurora shooting, and that was back then. They were kind of trying to blame it on video games, but nowhere near as much as they have this time around. So anyway, this brings me to the end of my commentary. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a like, and I want to know your opinions on this, whether you think it is a waste of money, or whether you're with me that it will be kind of good to see what this report or research actually does show, because then we actually have some actual form of evidence to refer to, instead of, because people keep saying, oh, research has shown, but we haven't actually got like a proper document to reference off the top of your head. Like, if someone says, give me proper evidence that, violent video games aren't the cause of this, it's kind of hard. Like, you can just say no, but it's going to be a lot better to have a proper document that's recent for people to talk about. And if you want to join the gamerhood, just subscribe. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time.